Late Night Health continues. Our regular contributor, Greg Celaya, joins us. He is a doctor of chiropractic. He has a master's degree in nutrition and is certified in a number of different nutritional areas. Dr. Celaya, welcome back to Late Night Health.
Hey, Mark.
Nice to see you. Nice to talk with you.
Yeah.
And Dr. Celaya is my personal doc. I've gone to him for over 20 years, almost 30, right?
Wow, that's a long time, huh?
You put up with me for that long, man.
And the same.
And enjoying it. Listen, you and I were having a discussion. I was telling you about a situation that with some friends, and the thought of when to use natural or holistic healthcare came to mind versus allopathic or traditional healthcare. And you and I have talked about this a little bit. I mean, if you're in a car accident, I don't want to drink, weight and brew tea that takes away pain. I want something strong, and I want, right? I mean, it makes sense.
I think it depends upon, I know it sounds kind of funny, but the speed of which you need to address the situation, right? You're in a car accident. You're not going to take a holistic type of remedy to minimize the pain that you have now. It's not going to work now.
Right.
It may work later, but it's not going to work now.
But if you have a serious condition, and we talked about a friend of mine's has a relative who was diagnosed 6 months ago, or a little bit more than that, with breast cancer, and decided to treat it herself holistically. And that just has not worked.
Sure.
And what do you do? You walk in, I mean, you are the cleanest eater I know. You know where the beef is, what that you eat, all organic vegetables. I run into your wife at Whole Foods. I mean, you eat very well.
Right, but eating is one part of the equation. There's other things involved as well. I mean, you may eat organic and everything else. You have to trust where your food comes from. But there's more exposures, right? You're talking cleaning agents, soaps, even little dumb things like Chernobyl 10 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it's been, can affect your health.
The radiation leak in Japan just a couple of years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, you told me you're not eating tuna, I think.
Well, I eat specific type of tuna, and that tuna has been tested. So, but when you start looking at cancer, it's a tough situation. There's genetic issues that have had to occur. You've got what we call genetics and epigenetics. And genetics are really the roadmap, but epigenetics is really what makes them happen.
What's epigenetics? I've not heard the term.
It's kind of like the software of a computer, right? Genetics is the hardware. The software is the epigenetics. So it really runs everything. So just because you have the genetic trait to have diabetes doesn't mean you're going to get it. Now, if you have a bad epigenetic scenario, meaning you haven't eaten well, done well, plenty of exposures, you may more than likely get that disease because you already have a genetic propensity.
With genetics, Angelina Jolie tested positive for breast cancer.
Sure.
And opted for a radical mastectomy, and I guess we can build them bigger, better, and did that, and a lot of women are doing that. We spoke to a reporter about a year ago who did the same thing, and she was a young woman in her early 30s.
Yeah, it's easy for me to say because I'm not in their position, but it goes back to genetics and epigenetics. Just because you have the genetic trait doesn't mean you're going to get the disease. It's what you do about it that can actually cause these things to occur. So I've heard of plenty of people doing the same thing. I personally think it's extreme, but I think everybody's got to make their own choice. And, we were talking about cancer. cancer, a lot has gone wrong for a long period of time for DNA to change. And so now you've got a pretty drastic scenario. So
and that was the question. I just wrote it down before you mentioned DNA. Can DNA and does DNA change as we live?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you're seeing it with cancer. You're seeing it with some of these other diseases. And so, the secret is not waiting till you have a condition to try and take care of your health. The secret is living it every single day to the best of your ability. And then if something were to happen to you, you've done everything you possibly can. And, you have options at that point.
In looking at DNA, I mean, how do I know that my DNA is changing? I thought DNA was the blueprint of life. And it said, all right, Mark's going to have hazel eyes. He's going to be so tall. He's going to have this color skin, etc.
Well, think about it. For cells to go wrong, there had to be a change. So whether it be to toxicities, chemicals in our foods, radiation exposure, or everything all together. I mean, just even consider what you have in your water that we didn't have many, many, many years ago.
You're talking about the purification chemicals that are added to tap water?
Sure. I mean, there's really good reasons that they put these things in there, because obviously you look at some of these third world countries, they don't have potable water. And I think it's a real wonderful thing that we have, but I don't want to drink them.
And so you have a filter system, I'm assuming that
my whole house is filtered, not just my drinking area. I'm not taking a shower or a bath in the water that's full of chlorine, chloramines, fluoride, etc. That's not what I'm going to do.
I do the goldfish test, and my wife doesn't like the goldfish test. And Carol, and you're supposed to say to me, "What is the goldfish test?"
I know what the goldfish test is.
And the goldfish test is if I pour the water from the tap, put it into a small glass, put a goldfish in it, it's going to die.
Absolutely.
If I add a couple of drops of something that removes the chloramine and ammonia and the other things that they stick in the water, the fish thrives.
Right. Well, you know that if you had an aquarium. And so, I mean, like I said, I think it's necessary, but I think at one point you have to get rid of it before you consume it.
And so you can filter that stuff out.
Yeah, and the filter system that I have, they're not cheap, but I think they're worth their weight in gold. I'm not saying that's the only thing that's going to cause you issues, but you have an accumulation of a lot of different things that go on with your life, and if you can minimize your exposures, I think overall you will do much better. But it's, we're not talking about changing your water is going to cure cancer. It's not going to do it.
I like Arrowhead water, which is a product that's sold here in at least the western part of the United States.
Sure.
I like the taste, and my problem with it are the plastic bottles that comes in.
Right.
Sometimes they leak, which means to me, there could be bacteria growing in this thing. Every now and then the water tastes dirty to me.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned about the bacteria as I would be about the plastic itself. We have a big problem in our country is we are eradicating a lot of these bacteria, and they have a lot to do with our biodiversity as far as what's going on in our system. So I'm a little bit more concerned about that than I would be, the bacteria exposure itself.
Got it.
I don't know too many people who've ever gotten sick from drinking Arrowhead or bottled water.
Right. And almost everybody does at one point or another. If I go to a restaurant, I prefer bottled water, which is not bottled. It's plastic water.
Yeah.
Though when I do buy like a Pellegrino.
Sure.
Still or sparkling, because it seems to me to be a healthier choice. Our guest is Dr. Greg Celaya, and he's a nutritionist as well as a doctor of chiropractic. And we're talking about when to use natural healing versus allopathic healing. If, God forbid, you were diagnosed with a cancer and you work out, you do everything right. You work out, you exercise, you eat right. Have you made up your mind in advance what you would do?
I think I would have to do some research, which a lot of people don't do the research. Normal medical care takes care of symptoms. They don't necessarily treat the disease or so on the person or prevention. So I think at that point, depending upon what the scenario is, I would have to look and research in depth and detail to see what the benefit would be for going on an allopathic, either chemo or radiation type of therapy, really in depth. Because some cancers are extremely slow. You can treat them naturally. But
prostate cancer, some forms of prostate cancer would fall into that.
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
area.
So, I mean, it's a tough one because, you go down the path preaching what I preach, and you hope that you don't get sick, right? But you're doing everything you possibly can not to.
Right.
I mean, my house is really, really clean as far as toxins. But, hey, I do live in an area that there's farms all the way around. And I'm really concerned about what they're spraying and when they're spraying. And I know darn well I'm downwind.
But at the same time, aren't many of those farms organic farms?
I don't know.
Oh.
You know what I mean? They're not going to tell you. I mean, I've brought it up before, and I'm not getting answers at this point. I don't know what they're spraying. It's not uncommon to have GMO stuff and then spraying Roundup.
Right, and Roundup is a terrible thing.
It's a monster.
It is. Besides hurting pets, kids, it seeps into the ground and gets into the water table.
Absolutely. And guess where you get your water? Now, I don't know if they're testing for that or not, but, I'm not interested.
Can things like Roundup affect cause changes in DNA and the body and cause disease?
Well, I've definitely seen research that shows it can cause disease issues to occur. Whether it changes DNA, I don't know. Haven't done that homework yet. But, anything that actually can cause the things that I've seen that it can cause, I'm staying away. It might be a wonder for the farmer, but it's not for me. And I'm willing to pay extra not to have that stuff near my food.
Well, even at home, we have a small garden. We try to put garlic, for example, if we're going to do tomatoes.
Sure. Because
it keeps away the snails. There was I heard a radio spot the other day. Don't use snail pellets because they're really, really bad for the environment. And if you put them near food, you're going to be eating that. Why would you want to do that? All right. We've got a couple minutes left. We're going to take some time out. Dr. Greg Celaya is our guest. He's a regular contributor here on Late Night Health. You should visit his cookie website. What, gluten-free cookies?
Glutenfreecookies.com.
Glutenfreecookies.com. They are delicious. And I'm a real, I eat because it tastes good, not because it's necessarily healthy. I try, but not all the time am I successful. Greg's cookies are great. Well, they're Carrie's cookies. I'm making them Carrie's cookies. All right. I'm Mark Alyn, along with Dr. Greg and, of course, the insane Daryl Wayne. We will return as Late Night Health continues. Join us at latenighthealth.com, latenighthealth.com.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt that is straining your monthly budget? Have you been turned down for a personal loan, credit card, or mortgage? We'll quickly connect you with expert financial resources that provide free information that helps save you time and money and get you back on track. Don't spend hours a day searching for help. With just one phone call, we'll quickly connect you with your debt solution. We have programs to settle your debt, lower your bills, and cut your monthly payments. Call 800-989-8123 to get a free debt analysis to help you reduce your debt and get you back on track. The call is free, secure, and confidential. Call 800-989-8123. 800-989-8123. 800-989-8123. That's 800-989-8123.
Thanks for calling Consolidated Credit Counseling Services. Can I help you?
I sure hope so. I'm in debt.
Is it credit card bills?
Yes, I have 2 credit cards that I'm making minimum payments on and another that I'm behind on. I owe about $5,000.
What interest rates are you paying?
Between 18 and 22%.
At that rate, it'll take over 20 years to pay off.
Wow, 20 years?
What Consolidated Credit can do is work with your creditors to lower your payments and reduce or even eliminate your interest charges. You should be able to pay everything off in 3 or 4 years.
What do I have to do?
Just give me some details and get ready to celebrate your freedom from debt.
We're Consolidated Credit. We're here to give you freedom from debt. Call now for your free consultation.
If I had known it was this easy, I would have called years ago.
Call 1-800-229-1964. 1-800-229-1964. That's 1-800-229-1964.
Consolidated Credit Counseling Services Incorporated, 5701 West Sunlight Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33313. Not a loan company licensed by New York Department of Financial Services and by the Vermont Department of Financial Regulation. Maryland DM 19, Oregon DM 8003.